Welcome to the Swipe Right Effect podcast, where we will be sharing with you the power to get unstuck by swiping right on yourself. Your host, author C.K. Collins, aka Kelly, gets personal with her guests, sharing stories of themselves getting unstuck with wisdom and guidance. Where do you feel stuck? Are you waiting to get your new life started after a big change? You've come to the right place. So with that said, let's get started.
Hi, everybody. This is C.K. Collins, aka Kelly from the Swipe Right Effect. Thanks for tuning in today. Today, I'm honored to be visiting with the podcast hosts of Latinas of Wine and Wisdom 5. The 5 Latina women are childhood friends that have created a bond of sisterhood. Love that. Within their group, you will find educators, frontline workers, and entrepreneurs. They created a platform to give the women the opportunity to share and have a place to have a voice. They have women on their show to tell their stories, from entrepreneurs to survivors. They hope their stories that they share provide wisdom and continue to empower wisdom. They want to show you that women in their 40s still got it. And as I told you before we started, I can't believe you guys are in your 40s. But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Love it. Very young looking. So welcome, everybody. We've got Frances, want to wave, Frances, and Claudia.
Hi.
And Gloria.
Hey.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us on, Kelly. We are honored to be on your podcast.
Oh,
Yeah.
so glad you're here. And
yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, I was honored to be on yours too. It was really fun, and I enjoyed talking about feminism. So I hope
we
everybody will
loved
tune
having
in.
you on ours. We were awed. We were
Yes.
all in awe after your
Yeah.
appearance in our podcast.
Yeah. Can you guys just introduce yourselves real quick with maybe what you do as your profession, and if you have any children or anything like that, if you don't mind sharing?
Sure. I
Okay.
can go first. I'm Claudia. I am a teacher. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I have 3 kids, my daughter and 2 boys, and I have been married for going to be 17 years this year.
Awesome.
Thank you.
How about you, Frances?
I am recently divorced. I work for Paramount Networks. I work in the media operations department. I also do production, and I'm a cheerleading coach, so I wear a lot of hats. And yeah, and I'm not a mom, but I have a lot of godchildren within these beautiful women here, so they've become my kids.
Awesome. I love that. How about you, Gloria?
And I'm Gloria. I am a HR director and payroll manager at a broker firm for mortgages. I've been in the real estate industry for over 18 years. I have 2 beautiful, handsome young men, because they're not babies anymore when I say they're my babies. They are 25 and 22.
Awesome.
So now they're actually my bodyguards.
That's very true.
That is handy.
And I was a single mom for 21 years, and I just recently remarried.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I love that. Yay. And sometime in the middle of the podcast, Jessica is also going to join us. So we'll meet her.
She's actually about to hop on in like 2 minutes. She just sent a message.
Excellent. Okay. That's great. Well, we'll learn about her when she gets here. So I thank you for introducing yourselves. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to start with a question kind of related to the name of the podcast, which the subtitle is The Power to Get Unstuck. And so I wanted, since you, now that I understand you're in your 40s, I know you've lived some life.
Oh, yeah.
We've all been
You were
stuck
like
at
in
one
your
point or
late
another.
20s. So my question is, have you ever had a time in life that you felt stuck? And then maybe a tip that you could share with our listeners on what you did to get unstuck. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, I'm very sorry. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. You look lovely.
Oh, thanks.
Jessica, everybody else kind of introduced themselves and just said what they do for their careers. If you don't mind doing that real quick, then we'll jump back to the question.
Oh,
How many
yes.
children?
Okay, I have two daughters. They're 20 and 16. Um, and my career, I work at the city of Poughkeepsie School District. And I do a lot of family advocacy for the families out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Good work. Yeah.
The front line for the families.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so the question is, have you ever had a time in your life where you felt stuck, and what did you do to get unstuck? Throw that out to anybody.
I have an answer.
Go ahead.
So I would have to say, after my son, Devin, my second son, Devin, I feel like with my daughter, you go through the motions of motherhood and you're stressed out. That's very life changing. Then the second one came, and again, life changing in a different way because now you have two. But I feel like I lost myself a lot after that. You lose yourself with the first child, second child. I just felt just stuck in you just give yourself, you give up who you are. And I felt like I gave up who I am with my daughter. And then you have a second child, and it's like you're still just not, you're in the shadows. And so it hit me a lot more at that point because I was in my almost 35, so you just had like all these things in your mind of what you wanted to do before 40. You have these things in your mind. So I just felt like it was routine. And even in your marriage, things become a little boring sometimes because of, just children and stress. So I think at that point I felt stuck. And coming out of there was a lot of communication with my friends, people who kind of were going through it, and with my husband, because he felt my energy, so and then deciding that like I have to do things that make me happy, and that's okay. It's okay to leave your children with someone while you go to the gym. When you go somewhere, you go on date night, doing the things that bring you joy, and that they're going to be okay. Yeah. So I felt like that's how I handled that at that point.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, that's really what my book is about, is swiping right for yourself, choosing yourself. And
yeah,
that's great.
Mom guilt is real.
Mom guilt is so real.
I have a third now, he's 3. So I think for me now is just giving them equal love. You love them, but the attention that they all need at different stages of their lives. But I'm going to stop now. So
anybody else have a story they want to share?
I have a story. I felt stuck in my marriage. I lost myself, like similar to Claudia, but I lost myself in a different way. I just didn't know who I was anymore. I couldn't identify anything, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I liked to do. I was just so lost. And making a decision to leave it behind, I say, was the best decision in my entire life. I was able to feel like I learned. No, thank you. I learned so much about myself. It took me a lot of years to learn it, but I took my time and I embraced the moment. Did I go through pain? Did I go through lonely moments? Did I go through, what am I doing? How am I going to do this? Sure. But the excitement for me was every time I discovered something about myself. And it just brought me joy because I knew that I was pouring that out into my own children.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just liberating and a lot of freedom for me when I got unstuck from that marriage.
Yeah.
I like the way you said that, unstuck.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah.
I have a story. I think for me it was learning that I can take care of people just as hard from afar.
Mm.
I was stuck. How can I say it? I was like being a permanent caretaker
Mm.
and not realizing that I was a permanent caretaker. I was in a whirlwind of people, and we've shared this before, and I never knew that you can be lonely surrounded by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And now that I live alone, I'm just alone. I'm not lonely,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm happy. I'm so much happier. And learning to walk away and getting the courage to walk away was really, really hard for me because it's my family.
Yeah.
And then being able to realize that they'll be okay, and learning that, you know, I too can walk away, and I too can take time for myself, and I too have to be important to myself as they are to me.
Yeah.
And that it was a real struggle, it was a real challenge. It took a lot of talking to myself and convincing myself, and then realizing that, you know, they're not going to fall apart or melt away if I'm not there. But in my mind, I was like, how are they going to do it? How are they going to pay the bills? Are they going to take care of each other the way that I take care of them? You know, because I was holding on the household and the marriage and the school and the work, and, you know, to make sure everybody was okay. And then when I walked away, I was like, I could have done this like 10 years ago.
Nobody's dying. Nobody's dead. Everybody's still alive.
I could have done it 10 years ago. But it's the process of, you know, the worry, right, of taking care of my mom, the worry of taking care of my sister, because they both had life-threatening issues, right? And then, you know, trying to be a wife, and then trying to find some time just to improve myself a little bit in the interim, and then realizing that nobody else cared but myself,
Yeah.
you know, and that was just like mind-blowing to me. Then, you know, when I was able to walk away, it was just like, oh, well, you know, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. And, you know, yes, I'm not abandoning nobody, and yes, you know, everybody, whenever they need it, they have it. But now it's like, oh, you need it, okay, I'll pass by during the week.
Yeah.
Before it was like, oh, I'm on my way, I'm gonna drop it off, you know. Okay, now it's like, when I get a chance, I'll do it.
Up
You
to
know,
it. Yeah.
but I have to do this first, then I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Fran,
So-
do you think it's
Definitely can relate to
expected?
that. Yeah.
Like, do you think that changed the expectation?
No, the expectations hasn't changed, but you know, I don't want to use the word blame. I want to use the word it's cultural. It's a cultural
Mhm.
thing, right? That's how we grew up. It's a Hispanic thing, you know. I think at one point in time we all experience it within our families, but it's also manipulation.
Yes.
It's
That's the word.
manipulation because they want to guilt trip you, you know, and be like, oh, tú no puedes. I mean, oh, you can't come now, but then, you know, but you have time for other stuff. Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be
Mhm.
okay. Are you starving? Are you dying? Are you
Mhm.
bleeding? No. So I will go when I get a chance. Right now, I'm doing this. Oh, but you put Gloria before me every day, all day. I will put Gloria before you. Yes. I will bring you the dozen of eggs later. But there's a grocery store down the block. But
If you need them before.
my special
Right.
dozen of eggs. The dozen of
Feel
eggs I
free
get a
to
shot
go.
for, I have full
Oh
buckets in
my
it.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
was
it's
reading about
manipulation.
that recently, and because I was writing a speech that I want to give, and it's about quitting the things that aren't healthy for you, and how your life can actually be better quitting things. You know, we're
Yeah.
taught not to quit. Don't be a quitter. Quitters never win. Winners never quit. But quitting my hero complex That's what I call them. That's what
Yeah.
what I was reading. They called it a hero complex, and that was me all over. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't going to be okay if I wasn't right in the middle of it. It wasn't. Nobody could take care of that situation any better than I could, and I knew, it's like I had all the answers. And really, you know, hindsight's amazing, right? You can look back and see everybody would have been just fine if Kelly hadn't given 150%.
Yeah. But they also become very codependent.
Yes.
And they make you feel that way because it's a dependency. You know, it's like, oh, but Francie can do this. Oh, but Francie can do that. Oh, no, don't do it. Francie's going to do it. And then since you've done it, you don't even realize that you're in that funnel, that you're in that tornado. You're just, you know, constant. And you just, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it until I moved out. And I moved out for the first time at the age of 45. I've never had my own apartment because I was so dependent and taking care of everybody else. If I would have known, oh my God, our 20s would have been worse than what they were.
I feel like, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I quickly, Claudia, I feel like we all have these roles in our life. And, you know, I wouldn't say quitting is the word we should use.
No.
I would say we are resigning some of those roles because we've
Mm-hmm.
already served our purpose. And it's time to grow and move on.
Yeah, we're evolving. We're evolving.
Continue to do those roles. We choose to continue not to do those roles that are not helping us grow, that are not helping us stay healthy or sane or anything else.
Right.
You know, for me, it was like, I quit the supermom. I gotta be supermom. Oh, hell no. Supermom doesn't exist. It's just too much stress. It's just like the guiltiness. Oh, they didn't get the right outfit. And then for the school, I'm like, like it's just too much. The whole supermom.
I took over that role.
I tried it, and I'm like, this is just too much. So, definitely get that.
So we've talked about several different situations there, you know, where we got stuck and unstuck. And I've been really digging into how women can help each other lately. That's been real important to me. And a lot of my conversations with my friends are centered around what would we want for the generation coming behind us, you know, or just for the next generation of women, you know, that maybe it's the 20 somethings coming up, or maybe it's our daughters. What do we, you know, my daughters are, 28, 30, and 32. My middle just turned 30 on Saturday. So I'm like, what do I want for them? You know, and it's, so that's my question to you is what would you like to see happen for the next generation of women? And that can be specifically for Latina women too, as you were talking about in your culture, you know, how that was very much a part of how you were living and the decisions that you were making.
Our wheels are turning.
Like it.
Gloria, did you answer the other question? I wasn't
Oh,
sure.
maybe not. Yeah.
No, I didn't. But I would say I don't personally have a daughter, right? I have two sons, but I do have nieces. And you know, somebody like Jessica, her girls are my girls. You know, our other friend Angie, Claudia, you know, like they're each other's kids become each other's kids, right? Like we all become the titi, like we call it in the Spanish culture, right? The aunt. And what I would want for them is for not to have what we had, which I already believe they don't, which is I don't think girls in their 20s any longer are living the I need to serve my man syndrome, which is installed in our brains, I think, since we're 5, right? So I don't think girls in their 20s have that incorporated in them. They are more like we are equal, which I love. I also feel that in our time, it was taught you have to leave the house dressed in white, marry properly, if you're going to leave this house. Nowadays, we're like, oh, hell no, let them live together, see if they even get along before they kill each other. And then if they decide they want to get married, they can get married. And then if they want to have kids, they can have kids. Because that was another thing, you know, like I say it in the live show we do, where in the Dominican culture, if you weren't married by the age of like 25, you were considered an old maid. and it's like, don't you dare get married and not have kids like within a couple of years, because then something's wrong with you. So it's just, I think we're just living in such different times that I actually heard it this morning in the radio where they were saying women in New York no longer want to have children. And it's from the age of like 30 to 45. They are not having kids. They're like, oh, hell no. They're too expensive. This world is too toxic. What do I have to offer to this child? I want to make my career. I want to have grounds before I even think about having a child, be completely set up, home, business, career, whatever the case may be, and then think of a child. Right. And I also feel that women need to know their value, right? Which is something that is also very big right now. But still, I feel there's so many that don't know their value and don't value themselves. I'm someone that if people don't know me, I can come across like if I am conceited or full of myself. And I'm not. It's just my parents really did inscribe in us a lot of self-love, right? A lot of, you can do it. You're amazing. Don't let anyone ever put you down. And it wasn't like I was better than anyone, but it was, you're not less than anyone either. So I always go by the rules that I say. I can treat the cleaning lady the same way I treat the CEO of the company, female. I treat you both the same, because guess what? We're all getting bread and butter on our table and a roof over our head, working legally, working, sweating, however it is, right? So I think that that's an important thing that girls in their 20s need to learn, their self-value, their self-love, that they don't need to expose their body or they don't need to follow anybody else, but love themselves and respect themselves for themselves, not for anybody else.
Yeah. I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
I drink to a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, beautifully said, Gloria.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I have the daughters in my two big girls who I've had such pleasure and continue to have the pleasure to see them grow. And what I love about their generations is how they use their voices.
Right.
And their use of their voice is super amazing to me, because they are understanding when to say no, when to say stop. They're learning what consent is. And to me, that's huge, especially with them developing relationships with males or whoever they're deciding to build relationships with. So I didn't have a voice ever. You would have thought I had a voice, but I didn't have a voice. I kept very quiet until I started to divorce. I found my voice. So I always wanted to make sure that I was raising my daughters understanding that they have a voice, their feelings matter, what they are doing matters. And right now I have two wonderful girls who are super confident, and not in a cocky way. It's beautiful. It's beautiful how they express themselves. And I wish all of our generation, being male or female, can be the same, because it is a beautiful thing to watch and hear them, It's just so cool. Working in the school district, I see the older kids speaking and I'm like, wow, like, who are you?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what I want them to continue having.
I was gonna say that also about voice, something with us raised in my culture. I spoke when I was spoken to.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I didn't find my voice until much later in life. And I still struggle with it, more so in like career wise when you're put in situations, but I find it. But something else that I think is so important is to have financial literacy early.
Yes.
Instead of making dumb mistakes and then learning later. I think it's so important to just learn. I got my kids' bank accounts like now. Investing, learning that, investments, you can do that. It's hard, but earlier in life, you have time, and when you're younger, you can lose, and it's just easier than when you're 40s and all these responsibilities. So I think having that financial literacy and learning and about that, investing, properties, real estate, all of that is important. And I wish I would have known that.
Yeah. I think I would tell them like 4 things. You have the power to change things. You have the power to walk away from things. You have the power to, gravitate to approach whatever it is that you want to approach. Your education is the only thing nobody can take away from you. The only thing. They can make you feel, they can fire you, they can, take your house, take your home, take your car, take whatever, but your education is what you will always walk away with it. And I wish I would have learned that early on in life, but I wasn't ready. And I think the other thing I would tell them is, do it when you're ready. And I went to school later on in life, and I don't regret it because of that. And when I finally knew what my path was, I'm at where I'm at today. Right. I'm in media, I'm in entertainment, which has always been my passion, but I didn't know where to get, like which path to really take, because I started within the party industry, but I can't be 60 and still throwing parties, even though it's a possibility. But when you're ready, don't look back, because once you're ready, you're ready to take on whatever, adversity, challenges come your way, and never think you can't do it regardless what anybody tells you. You can do it. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time. It's not going to be easy. You're going to be tired. You're going to hate life, but that's the process of your success. And I think the last thing I would tell them is create your sisterhood.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that, in my book, every chapter is a different friend. And we talk about the piece of advice that they gave me. And my sisterhood saved me after my divorce. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was anymore. And
cheers.
Cheers.
We have the same story.
They
I haven't
saved
had
me.
wine on my podcast before, so I really like this wine and women. You have to do it at night, but so my sisters, my friends, they're and I have 3 daughters who are now adults, and they're becoming more and more like my friends and my supporters, and me. That of course, I've always been their supporter, but
so beautiful.
And okay, well, let me add, so this is going to continue with this kind of thought process, but so if you were to mentor a young lady that's 10 years younger than you, what would you advise her about independence?
The wheels are turning again.
I can wait.
I have one that has been with me since she was 13, which is Tati. She works with us now, and she's worked with me since she was 13. I was her cheerleading coach, and she just gravitated to me, and she's been in my life ever since. And this girl, I can't even begin to tell you, she's amazing. She's talented, she's smart. And I always told her, like, don't stop. Whatever it is that you need, don't stop. She had adversity at home. She has a wonderful family. And I always told her, I was like, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it. But you have to pace yourself, and always know that she wanted to be independent and like move out with her boyfriend. And I was like, you're very young. You have good parents. You come from a good home. Take your time. Don't rush it. When you're ready, it'll just happen. It'll happen that you're ready. And he's a great guy. They've been together since the 8th grade. She's 27 now, and they're
Wow.
still together. And you know, she always came back. She always, whether she, you know, she volunteered with me for cheerleading practice, and she became my assistant coach. And now, you know, she does stuff for the podcast. And she's always, we've gone to partying together, and nobody can tell that we're, you know, 20 years apart. And but you know, she's been really good with taking an advice and absorbing it and running with it. And she's going, you know, she has her bachelor's now. She's a teacher. She's, you know, is going for her master's, and I'm so proud of her. She's been the definition of what it is, you know, to follow through and, you know, jumping the hurdles and falling and getting back up, you know. And every time she's like, friend, I don't know what to do. I'm like, you'll figure it out. You know, that's the phrase in life. We will figure it out. As women, we always have to figure it out, right?
Yes.
I'm like, there's always a solution to every problem. You just have to take a minute and figure it out. And she's done that. And, you know, I'm a proud mom of someone else's child because she's amazing. And we all love her. She's great.
Yeah,
You know,
sounds
so-
like you've done a great job in mentoring her. That's amazing.
Oh, she does my makeup and everything because I suck at all this. You know? This is the most you're ever gonna get from me. So, but yeah, I love her to death.
So I think for me, independence has changed a little bit from when I was younger. So growing up, we were kind of instilled fear from my mom, like you couldn't move out, you know, you had to get married, you know, you had to also scared to travel alone. Like, oh, you know, you don't travel alone. I don't know, this fear. And I wish I would have been able to buy my own apartment, get my own apartment, move out, live that like life, a little bit travel on my own. I didn't do that till later. I feel like that's liberating. Also just, and now independence has changed because of mom, married, right? I have, in terms of financial, you have money set aside for the bills. I have my own money that I can play with. I could travel, you know, just where it's not so I have to tell my husband every little thing I'm buying. You know, we have that respect that we both work hard for our money, for our family, but for ourselves too. So things like that, doing things that I love still, even though I'm married with kids, you know, you have to make that time for yourself. So independence has changed in that, but it's so important. So that's what I would say.
For me, I think what I would tell someone younger than I am is first explain how important independence is. I didn't grow up. I grew up watching my mom being very dependent on my father. And even my sisters, because they're much older than I am. You know, he will come home, throw his stack of money that he made from work, and she would give him the allowance. I love to see that. But you know, that was never talked about at home, about my dependence, you know, independence. And so I married, and I kind of like followed those same footsteps, and it was terrible because when it came to a place where I needed to leave, I didn't know how because I wasn't independent. So I taught, and I still talk to my daughters and their friends, how important it is to be independent, how important it is to have your own, stand on your own 2 feet, do for you. And if someone joins you in your life, great. That's considered an extra income or extra side hustle, you know. But I always have told them to push hard and work hard, and just, you can do it. You want your master's, do it. You want to take a month or 2 break, okay, but make sure that you hop back on that road for your independence, because it's just important. I think it's really important to talk about how important it is to have that independence.
Yeah.
Cheers to you,
Yeah.
Jessica.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
So I would say, in reference to independence, I've always been very, very, very independent. Like, holy shit. Like, I saw, just like Jessica, my mom staying at home, being a home mom after a certain age. Like, she just stopped working because she was like, I'm not putting my girls, because we were two girls growing up at home, through, daycare or babysitter or anybody else to watch them. I'm just going to stay home and raise my girls. But what did that mean for her is that now she depended on my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been very strong-minded and strong-willed and hard-headed, stubborn, whatever you want to call me, I'll take it. I'm an Aries. And I knew that that's the life I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
So I always worked since I was 14 years old. I gave my mother money. I paid for my own tuition in Catholic high school. I am the first person in my home, my family, to drive, to have a car. My father never drove. My mother never drove. My sister never drove. My sister's 8.5 years older than me. So I always knew what I didn't want. I would see myself in that mirror of my mom, and I was like, oh no, that's not what I'm doing. The day I graduated college, I got on a plane with basically 49 strangers. They were friends from college. And we took a fucking plane for 10 days. Ooh, can I curse in your podcast? To Cancun, Mexico. No one in my family ever been to Mexico. I'm not Mexican, but I went. And I've always been that way. And that's what I say to like my niece, who's 15 years younger than me. That was like my first live doll, because I was 15 when she was born, and I carried her everywhere, and I thought she was mine with this big red head. But she was my doll until today. She's grown, she's 35 years old. She's got 2 twin kids. She's still my princess. And I've always told her, and we joke about it all the time. And she says, I should have been your daughter, because I always tell her, go for whatever you want. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let anyone tell you you cannot. That's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
If you can believe it, if you can imagine it, if you can think of it, you can do it. And I'm like, just go for it. Who cares what anybody thinks? You fall, you get back up. I've fallen so many times in life. And I'm a true believer that every time I get up stronger. And that's my message to any woman, any boy, anybody in life. So what? You try, you fail, you get back up. That's how successful people make it, by failing.
Yeah.
If you don't try, you don't know. That's when you fail, by not trying. So to me, it's so important not to depend on anyone. And unfortunately, in my first marriage, I was naive enough to have joint bank accounts. And when he left me with a 3-year-old and a 2-month born, he closed our bank accounts, and I had no job. So my message always has been to all my friends that go through divorce or go through a bad marriage or go through whatever after I experienced it is, be smart enough to have your own account, like Claudia just said.
Yeah.
And I'm not wishing anybody wrong. I'm not saying their husbands are going to be a piece of shit. I'm just saying you never know. And it's so important to have your own.
Yeah.
Whether it's your own place, like the girls have said before me, whether it's your own bank account, whether it's, you just need to know who you are. Because in a marriage, just like Jessica had mentioned, you get lost.
Yeah.
And that actually happened to me in my marriage. My first
Same.
marriage.
Because I was independent younger.
I became the mother and the wife, and Gloria didn't exist anymore. My dreams just got pushed under the rug, right? I was going to travel the world. I was going to own my own business. I was never going to have kids. I was never going to get married. That all went right under the rug, and I became the mother and the wife. I still worked a full-time job every single day, but it was no longer about me. It was about them. So when I went through the divorce, I had to refine myself and find out who I was, because I was so lost in being the mom and the wife. So that's always my message to women younger than me. Always know who you are. Always stand up for what you want and what you believe. Yes, you have to balance it out. Relationships are about, giving 50-50, like they call it or whatever.
100.
But at the end of the day, you got to be a little selfish sometimes. And it's not selfish, it's self-love. And say, does this make me happy? How do I feel about this? If I'm not happy and I don't want it, I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. Just to satisfy you, to make you happy. What about my happiness?
Right.
Because I think we get so lost in wanting to make the other person happy or to satisfy the other person that we don't satisfy it ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well said. Well said.
For me in my marriage, just to touch on that, I think me being overly independent, I don't want to say I shot myself in the foot with it, but I don't know how else to express it. Or actually, no, he couldn't handle it. How about that?
Yeah, some men don't like strong,
Yeah, the
independent women.
fact that I was overly independent, and it reminded me a lot of my dad, right? Because my dad used to always tell my mom, "Oh, if I'm not around, you know, how are you going to survive? You and the kids would starve," right? And when my dad left, he left with the rent money, tuition money, Con Ed money. He left my mom without anything. And my mom doesn't really speak English. She didn't have, you know, much of an education, but my mom perceived it and she started stashing under the mattress. So when he left, although he took all of, you know, the money, right? She was able to at least pay the rent and the light bill. And you know, when you go to Catholic school, they take you out of class if your parents don't pay the tuition. You know, we were out for about 2 weeks, but that moment showed me that if she can do it with no education and, you know, a language barrier, there is nothing that I can't fucking do.
Yeah.
And I became so independent at that moment that I just never really depended on my husband for anything. You were just an addition to my help, right? You were an addition to my struggle. And these girls are testament. I have no problem working 3 jobs. No problem. And I'm not embarrassed about it. You know, he had a problem with it. You know, to him it was embarrassing. Why you have to work 3 jobs? Because I have a family, and I don't want, you know, for everything to fall on you, because I already knew the situation. You know, so for him, he couldn't handle the fact that I was so independent. He just didn't like it. But it just actually made me more independent. You know, like,
yeah.
you know, you don't like it, well then, hey, here's another job for grass cutting. I'm gonna take that one too. Like, you know, whatever came my way. And I'm glad that I did that, because I was able to pay for myself to go, you know, finish college and, you know, start a business and do everything that I needed to do without having to say she has that because of me. No, I have that because of me.
Yes.
So.
I'll drink to that too. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'll just add one little thing that my mom taught me. She said, when I was getting married at the age of 21, she said, always be on every bank account and you always pay the bills. That way, you know where the money's going.
Yep.
And so we did have joint, but I always paid the bills. And so I was very well aware of what we had, what we didn't have, if we were overspending, if we had money to save. I mean, I was the proactive one on that. And that was thanks to my mom telling me to do that.
Cheers to mom.
Yeah. Cheers to mom.
Yeah. She's still smart as a whip. She just turned 80.
God bless her.
Yeah. I'm just a little older than you guys. Okay, my last question, and I hope everybody will answer. So in my book, I asked everybody this, every one of my interviewees, 4 questions, and this was the last question. So, and it's always provided me inspiration every time somebody answers it. So the question is, what feeds your soul?
So family feeds my soul. I'm very big on God. And my kids. That's really what makes me make flips, jump, runs, whatever you want to call it. It's being so proud of my boys that I've raised them on my own for 21 years. My whole life, we grew up, we're a very united family, right? So I didn't really hang out in the streets. I didn't really go to nightclubs as a teenager. Everything was always family gatherings. So for me, that's why family is so important. You know, my parents' home was the home where everyone would come and visit, whether it was from Boston, whether it was from, you know, Connecticut, whether it was from Dominican Republic. our home was the home that everyone went to. So I was always, my whole life, been surrounded by family, and I value that so much, and I inscribe that into my kids. And I say kids, even though they're already adults, but that's why they love it. Like, they also feed off of that, of family. I think it's so important. You know, of course, every family has the evil, the good, the whatever, but you know, it's just so important. And you know, just God, if you got to have God present, you know, whatever God people believe in, whatever religion they believe in, whatever, this a greater power, right? And God moves me. Every situation I've been through and came out of stronger is because of my faith.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Anybody else want to share?
For me is peace. Peace fills my soul. I like to stay away from drama. I like to stay away from negativity. And even if that means, you know, negative people, family, friends, I tend to have learned very quickly how to cut that off out of my life. Maintaining my peace has helped with my mental health. And if my mental health is right, everything else falls into place.
that's right.
Yeah.
So,
Cheers.
thank you.
Love it.
I think this is a hard question because for me, like so many aspects, so many parts of me, experiences fill my soul in terms of doing something adventurous with my kids. We go skiing, we bike, or doing something like that with my family fills my soul. Being creative, because I do hair, I do makeup. That sparks my creativity. Dancing, music. Like when I'm away from that for too long, like I feel like, So that part of me, when I am able to do those things, fills my soul. And also just growing. You're forever growing, forever evolving. That fills my, and it's in all areas, whether it's, you know, here with what we're doing, with my work, with being a mom, growing as a wife, as a daughter, just grow, fills my soul as well.
Beautiful.
For me, I'm also a very creative person. And for me, it's actually taking a step back and being able to see my vision come to life, if that makes sense, right? Like I'll decorate a Sweet 16 or whatever, and I'll grab Gloria by the hand and we'll just run to the back of the room and just be like, right? Because everything that we put together and like all the pieces to the puzzle, now there's like this big picture. And then just seeing like the accomplishment of your work just like fills me up, you know, being able just to see everything that I've been able to accomplish regardless of all my adversities, and then I'm still able to, you know, continue and still able to grow and still able to accomplish, still able to create, you know, that just like it puts me on a different type of high.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, I get goosebumps just talking about it, because it's something that when you're creative, it's just a constant thing that even when you're not trying to be creative, like I could be driving and I've known to miss an exit because in my mind, I'm like, oh, that would be good with that. And then that would be good with that. Next thing I know, I'm in Brooklyn. I was trying to go to like White Plains. You know? It's like, it's happened to me. And I'm like, oh, I got to pay more attention, you know? But yeah, being creative and being able to see, you know, my accomplishments, come to fruition, regardless of what trials and tribulations have come in front of me, you know, to try to stop me. It just, you know, it just motivates me and it pushes me to know that I can do more. And it just excites me to see what else I can accomplish.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I am so impressed by all four of you, and you are truly accomplished in life and sisterhood. And I mean, you're just all very impressive. And thank you. I learned a lot from you tonight. And I think my listeners will also learn a lot from you.
Thank
So,
you.
so thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
so
for coming
much.
on.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you. I have a question for you that we meant to ask you on our podcast, but what intrigued you to reach out to us on Podmatch?
The sisterhood, because that is my whole book is about that. That's
Okay.
my sisters, my literal two sisters, and my friends who are my sisters helped me put my life back together. And I thought, wow, I bet you guys have been through a lot together. And
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have.
Girl, we don't have enough wine. We don't have enough wine.
well, yeah, and I wanted to drink wine with you because you look cool. So great question though. And I mean, and I loved it. I loved being on your podcast and getting to share my story, but also, this is really special to me to repay the interview.
We learned so much from you that
Thank you
day
so
too.
much.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we did.
All
So
right.
thank you. Thank you for having us on.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for being on the Swipe Right
So
Effect.
much.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Kelly's book is available on Amazon and through your local bookstores. Look for the Swipe Right Effect, the power to get unstuck. Kelly's interviews with 10 friends from around the world unlock powerful truths to getting your new life started.